back with our first match in a while with Murktide in Modern. So we've resubscribed to Mana Traders, at least temporarily. So taking a look at our opening hand. Apparently not. Okay, we mulliganed the first hand. Probably had too many lands. This hand looks pretty interesting. Triple Counterspell, Ledger Shredder, Unholy Heat. I think here we put back one of the copies of Counterspell, simply because it can be a bit redundant. Opponent plays Scalding Tarn and passes. We play Spirebluff Canal and pass. Opponent fetches a Taurus Proving Ground into Passeju, into Explore. So it looks like we're up against possibly Creativity or Skeep Shift perhaps. We see Lightning Bolt and Bennett. We then cast our copy of Ledger Shredder, which could be incorrect here, as it is vulnerable to Lightning Bolt, but we do need to get pressure on the board against this deck. They bolt us and pass. We draw Murktide, so that gives us a game plan. We just go ahead and put our Steam Vents in tapped. Our opponent cracks their fetch land, once again getting all mountains, so once again still looking like we're up against, and we are in fact against Creativity. It goes for Creativity, and Holy Heat their thing, still holding up copies of Counterspell. We then play Iteration, setting up a situation where we get to hold up Counterspell as well. A little bit of a gamble there, but I do think just playing a long game. Opponent gems a Titan. We go ahead and hit the Counterspell here, pass turn. We untap, play a Murktide, get our pressure down, holding up a Counterspell, pass the turn. Our opponent casts yet another Prime Time. We cast yet another Counterspell. Alright. We have Expressively Iterate, seeing copy of Ragavan, whatever. Not relevant. We attack with our 8/8 Dargon. Hold up Counterspell. Our opponent plays Bitter Reunion. We let it resolve. They cast Persist. We cast Counterspell. They concede. Sometimes it's just that easy. Alright, taking a look at sideboarding, we bring in Blood Moons, Flusterstorms, and Dress Downs, warning out some amount of Considers, some amount of Bolts. Not a ton for us to bolt in their deck. Unholy Heat can at least kill Prime Time after it's resolved if we have Delirium, but that said, take a look at our opening hand. We have Flusterstorm, Dress Down, a couple copies of Unholy Heat, not the most impressive card in the matchup, but can kill Fable of the Mirror Breaker tokens and the minor tokens, so sometimes relevant. Opponent goes turn 1 land pass. We go Bobble, crack Bobble. Look at our top card. It is a copy of Mishra's Bobble. We leave that on top, which may or may not have been correct. Opponent does the thing. They play a run-in 6. We unfortunately have to let that resolve. We go ahead and Unholy Heat this. Go ahead and untap. We could play out Dragon Rage's Channeler here, but I just want to get the run-in ticks off the board. Our opponent does the thing here. We go ahead, cast a Dragon Rage's Channeler, play a Mishra's Bobble, see a land on top, keep that land on top because we kind of need it. Opponent kills our Dragon Rage's Channeler. We pass the turn. Go ahead and look at their top card. It ends up being Thoughtseize, which is going to unfortunately resolve because Flusterstorm wouldn't counter it. They take Murktide. So obviously they feel they can handle Dragon Rage's Channeler. We draw the Polluted Delta we knew about. We drew Expressive Iteration. We cast Channeler. We play that. Might have been just correct to play Expressive Iteration here, but I felt getting the pressure down was necessary. Once again, we could have kept that alive, but it doesn't feel like we could have better uses for Flusterstorm, particularly since they're like one land away from being able to cast Indomitable Creativity. We go ahead, cast Expressive Iteration, see Iteration, Counterspell, land. Probably should have taken the Counterspell, but Iteration, we do need to find a threat at some point against this deck. They go ahead and cast Veil of Summer, so our Counterspells would be kind of meh anyway. They pass, continuing to miss on land drops. We island. We expressively iterate, see Shredder, Shredder, Moon. We could cast Shredder here, but we choose to hold up Spell Pierce and Flusterstorm instead. Opponent cycles Veil of Summer to draw a card. They play a land and pass. We play Dress Down just to get deeper into the deck. We play basic Island, play Blood Moon, and our opponent concedes. Now, some matchups are that easy. You know, our opponent could easily have Boseiju, but they don't have green mana, obviously. Most of these decks don't play something like a basic Forest. And, you know, even though we don't have pressure, Blood Moon enough sometimes enough to close the deal against creativity. Because if they can't resolve their Titans, well, shrug. But that's it for match number 1. See you for match numero dos. Alright, back for match number 2. We're on the pull to draw. This hand is reasonable, although, you know, if we don't find a second land, could get a little bit awkward. We have a lot of pressure. They reveal Gigantha. So, we go turn 1, get a Steam Vents, play out DRC, play out Bobble. We see another DRC on top. Probably should have been that, but do choose to keep it on top. I say we should have been that possibly simply because of the red mana source problems. We have a bunch of red cards, but only one red mana source. Opponent shows us Savai Triome, so most likely with that and Scion, we are up against Zoo. Opponent plays a dragon, which we have no convenient way of getting rid of. We draw off a Bobble, play Holy Heat, play that, find to consider, bin that, kill Sign of the Air Dragon, get in for 3. They have another Sign of the Air Dragon. We go ahead and attack. They do the thing. Try to bolt it. Meets a Stubborn Denial. We pass. Our opponent bashes in for 4. Plays yet another Scion. We play that. Archmage's Charm, a lot better when you're ahead, obviously. We play out the Dragon Rage's Channeler, play out a Bobble. They have a Leyline Binding. We see an island, we bin that. So we are not really lacking on lands at this point, we're really lacking on pressure. Tribal Flames, and we scoop them up. Alright, taking a look at our sideboarding. We boarded out 1 Ragavan and the copies of Consider for a copy of Abrade, 2 copies of Dive Down, 2 copies of Blood Moon. Blood Moon might be a bit ambitious, but their mana base is quite greedy. The Abrade obviously kills the Scion and kills some of their other creatures, and then obviously the copy of Dress Down. Dress Down is a little bit more situational, but sometimes their decks have like Tarmogoyfs or the XO creature whose power is equal, and you know, whatever. This hand's quite reasonable. We brought in Subtlety as well, simply because it can help slow them down, just that tiny extra bit. Been a Murktide, use a Bobble, see what's on top of their deck. Lightning Bolt. Okay, so our creature is dying. They fetch, shock, Lightning Bolt. Play a Bobble of their own. They fire off a Bobble, we draw a card, we draw another card. We dash a Monkey. It's possible I should have just cast Monkey and held up Spell Pierce here, but also didn't want to just randomly. Okay, they have Unlicensed first. We get to Spell Pierce that, which is nice. Opponent has a Mishra's Bobble. They bobble us again. We draw Counterspell. We cast Expressive Iteration. Shock that in. Cast Monkey and pass. Opponent goes. Bing dumb idiot. Unlicensed first. Sure. We're still showing reasonable signs of life here with Ragavan and a little bit of pressure. We also have a Subtlety available to us to buy us a little bit of time. Opponent casts a Monkey and passes. We go ahead and Unholy Heat it. We cast a Bobble. Maybe shouldn't have cracked it right away. would be drawing Island, not really a card we're interested in. Hit them with a monkey, put them to 10. We draw a bolt, go ahead and bolt their face, put them to 7. Opponent draws off their Mishra's Bauble, or we draw off Mishra's Bauble. They play a Tarmogoyf. We subtlety this, and it may have been incorrect, although it certainly deals with the Tarmogoyf. This Scion's actually more annoying, as we have no easy way to fight through it. We cast Rest Down, just looking for a way to draw a card to deal with this. We play a Dragon Rage's Channeler and pass, hoping to hold up Counterspell for their copy of Tarmogoyf before it can come down. Opponent jams the Tarmogoyf. We just let it resolve. I think that might have been incorrect, actually. I guess I was afraid of Stubborn Denial there, but go to combat. Do not attack. Then Licensed Hearse continues to chip away at our graveyard. Mishra's Bauble. Bauble, Bubble, Toil and Trouble. Opponent swings in with our Tarmogoyf. We choose not to block. They play nothing. This felt like a good opportunity to potentially attack. We go to combat and attack. They play Leyline Binding. We try to counterspell it. They have Stubborn Denial. We spell Pierce it just to tap them low. Murktide's kind of useless in this situation. They just tap out. And then, at this point, we're pretty much dead, so they take out Subtlety. They turn our Channeler into a 1/1. I bolt to keep Unholy Heat on top, but at this point, we're just dead. Put them to 3, and then we're just dead to Unlicensed Hearse plus Tarmogoyf or whatever. So maybe I shouldn't have got greedy and shouldn't have attacked there, but I don't think a longer game favors us at that point. They have the bigger idiots. They have the Unlicensed Hearse growing to be a very large threat, and overall I just felt it was better to get a little bit aggressive there. Alright, back from match 3, taking a look at our opening hand. Hand is pretty solid. Ragavan, Expressive Iteration, Counterspell, Consider. We are, opponent is mulliganing to 6. They open on Blood Crypt into Ragavan. Really would like to find a removal spell. We find Unholy Heat. Pass. Consider passing, but they might be the Undying Evil Scam deck, so no reason not to do things that way. We go ahead. They crack a Prismatic Vista. Jam Season Pyro. Hit Counterspell. Then we dash the monkey. Hit them. Hit a copy of Terminate. Doesn't do us a lot of good, but nice that they don't have access to it. They grief us. Go ahead and let them evoke. We let them cast Undying Malice. We bin Counterspell. We were looking for a way to deal with the stupid thing before it can come back. They take Ragavan. 1 card left in hand. We cast Consider. We find a Lightning Bolt. Hope to find their last card is not a way to Undying Evil that. They cast Malakir Rebirth. Then we play that and pass. Our opponent plays a Shieldred. We counterspell it. Bin a Bauble. Draw. We find Unholy Heat. Start pressuring our opponent here. Put them to 11. They find nothing. Pass. We draw land. Attack them for 3. Pass. They play a copy of Fury. Furious George. We go ahead and do that. Kill their thing. Leave a Dragon Rage's Channeler on top. Or no, Expressive Iteration. Iteration finds Channeler Bauble. We go ahead, cast Channeler, cast that. Do the thing. Leaving Lightning Bolt on top. They have Feign Death, which isn't going to do them a whole lot of good. We draw a Bolt. We draw Consider. It's possible we should have bolted it during the upkeep. Consider, looking for a way to close out the game now. We do not succeed. They cast another, or they flashback Seasoned Pyromancer for the 2 tokens. Probably not going to cut it here, but they got to do something, right? Go ahead and cast a couple copy, or do that. They bolt our thing, we bolt them in response. Put a Ragavan in the graveyard, which might have been incorrect, because Ragavan is lethal, but we draw the bolt and end the game. So honestly, this sideboarding was a little bit of guessing work on my part, because I've never actually played the Murktide deck versus Scam, because Scam is a deck that has emerged in the format since I stopped playing Murktide and was only exclusively playing Burn. But alas, we can make some educated guesses. Board out a couple copies of Consider for a couple copies of Consider Ragavan. Alright, we are back for game 3. We're on the play. Our opening hand has no lands. Our second hand has no lands. We open on this one, which is Ragavan, Unholy Heat, blah, blah, blah. Solid 5-card hand. Not great, but hope we don't get stripped bare. I shouldn't have actually cracked Mishra's Bauble there, in case we got hit with a Smooth Criminal like this, although Grief would have certainly been bad. Fury gets us. We have Unholy Heat, which is nice. Interestingly, our opponent left the Mishra's Bauble in the graveyard. Seems like a bit of a mistake. They get to take our Expressive Iteration. They're on 2 cards. We're on nothing. We then top deck Unlicensed Hearse. Not a terrible card overall. We get to chip away at their graveyard, keep them from doing any type of undying nonsense. Opponent passes. We go ahead and activate Hearse. Okay, play a land, pass. Could have left the hand in land, or land in hand, but there are some situations where we want to do that. Go ahead and do the thing. Go ahead and play this, although it's very likely to die. Opponent cracks. Surprised they didn't get a Blood Crypt there, but say la vie. Go ahead and do the thing. Go ahead and dash Monkey. Hopefully it'll connect. It does. We get Seasoned Pyro that we can't cast. Opponent has a Voidwalker. Opponent has a Grief to get our thing out of the stuff. Even if they have a Rebirth effect, we just get to exile it and pass. We draw a Counterspell. Not ideal, but fine. Opponent swings in with Voidwalker, gets us a little bit here. We continue to hold up Counterspell. We find a Murktide Regent, a very big Murktide Regent. It's a 6/6, so we get to kill them in 2 shots. Opponent tries to terminate it. We have the Counterspell. And opponent passes. They swing in for 3. They play nothing. We hearse away their last card. We swing in with Murktide, put them to 6. Opponent plays Shieldred. Shieldred puts us to, I believe, 8. Next turn puts us to 5. And this cost us the game by skipping through my attack step. My opponent gains some life. They Seasoned Pyro. Draw a bunch more stuff. But we're just dead here. So, unfortunate. Skipping through combat step cost us the match. But that's sometimes the risk you take. Opponent could easily, of attack with Shieldred Tier, force the block. But then we're just dead on our draw step anyway. But me skipping my attack step ultimately cost us this match. We should be 2-1 in this league at this point. So one thing I will say in the quick wrap, deck tech, whatever you want to call it, we should easily be 2-1 at this point. One mistake obviously can cost you in something like Magic Online. Generally not something that happens in paper Magic, but there are other things like not keeping track of bobble triggers, not doing this, not doing that. So each medium has its own flaws. We certainly cost ourselves a game. So But 2-1 overall. We beat, or 1-2 overall. We lost to Zoo. We lost to Scam, although we should have won that match. And then we also beat up on Creativity. So, nice welcome back to the format for playing Murktide. How long we'll have access to these cards, I don't know. I know we're doing Mana Traders for now. Sold one of my Magic Online decks, which was Lotus Field. So, we currently have access to these cards, so we're going to take advantage of them. Nothing too fancy with this Murktide list. Obviously, this is a tempo deck, so you have Ragavan, Dragon Razor Chainlord to get things going early. Ledger Shredder as a nice other threat to keep going in the game. Didn't really have a chance to shine too much in this league, but overall still a solid card. And obviously the namesake deck, or namesake of the deck, Murktide Regent. Beyond that, you get to play things like Bolt and Unholy Heat to deal with your opponent's threats. You have things like Spell Pierce, Counterspell, and one-of copy of Archmage's Charm to continue to either counterspell your opponent's threats, or Archmage's Charm can draw cards or steal their threats. Consider as a nice kind of filter card to help you hit your draws, along with Mishra's Bauble, way to fill the graveyard for both Murktide Regent and Dragon Razor Chainlord, as well as trigger Ledger Shredder, and then finally, probably the MVP of the deck overall, Expressive Iteration. I'm not sure without this card that this deck would be quite as good. There's a chance that if they ever wanted to ding Murktide down, Regent down a little bit, that Expressive Iteration would be the card that would need banned. It's already banned in Pioneer. It's very powerful in this format and in Legacy, so kind of hard to argue with Expressive Iteration maybe needing to go bye-bye, but this is a card that certainly holds the deck together. Sideboard, you know, a whole bunch of different things than the deck used to run, but a lot of the same things. Explosive, Engineered Explosives, very good against a number of one-drop things, good against Hammer Time, okay against Burn and such. Very good against low-to-the-ground decks, which, albeit there aren't a ton of them, still a reasonable card to have access to. Brotherhood's End, one of the newer cards. This is very good, particularly against Hammer Time. Unlicensed Hearse, great anti-graveyard stuff, good against things like Dredge, Living End, etc., opposing Murktide mirror matches. Blood Moon, kind of don't leave home without it if you have a deck that's capable of playing it. Helps a lot of matchups, help against Creativity and Titan especially. The Braid, once again, nice utility card that goes in nicely against any type of nonsense from Hammer Time, also a good decent removal spell. One-of Subtlety, not the most interesting card, but does have some uses. You know, this is a card you can bring in as a tempo play, a card you can like use to slow down Titan, etc. Mystical Dispute for any type of blue counterspell wars, whether you're against combo, blue soup control, etc. Cluster Storm, much the same thing, helps you against combo, helps you protect your creatures. And then Dress Down has a bunch of situations where it's useful, killing Urza Saga tokens, etc. So you have a lot of different cards you can bring in against Hammer Time in particular, but overall, nothing too flashy about this list, nothing too spicy, other than maybe the one of Archmage's Charm in the main deck, but this is a card that I was used to playing in Murktide Regent whenever we played it months and months and months ago. Ledger Shredder is kind of the newer addition to the deck since I played it last time as well. Last time I played the deck, it was DRC, Ragavan, and Murktide. There was no Ledger Shredder. Archmage's Charm was like a 2 or 3 of in the deck. But other than that, the deck is very similar, and not a whole lot has changed in the modern format. Obviously, Lurion's been banned, Luris has been banned, but you know the format has largely remained the same, other than Death Shadow obviously taking a huge nosedive, the emergence of Rakdos Scam, etc. But this deck is very much intact in what it was before, so you know, very powerful deck, best deck in the format, good deck to have in your back pocket as a deck to go to. So we'll play some matches with it here and there and see how it does, and hopefully it will help the get a better perspective of the modern format overall.